Of September 30th, 5 o'clock. Please rise as we salute the flag, and please after. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we offer a moment of silence for our service personnel, both here and abroad, and both past and present. Please be seated. We have a short agenda tonight, but a productive one to boot. First item, we have the appointments. We have the two remaining people to interview for this Town Administrator Screening Committee. First up is Mr. Barry. Mr. Barry, please, at the podium, please introduce yourself and basically why.
Hi, I'm Ed Barry. My wife and I have been residents of the town of Dartmouth for 15 years, and prior, my mom and dad were residents of Dartmouth for 40-plus years. I'm currently retired. I'm also president of my homeowners association here in Dartmouth. Prior to my retirement, I started a company in 1998. We started with one employee, and when I exited the company and retired, we had 1,500 people plus, and we were working out of 5 countries. As executive CEO of the company, I had the opportunity to interview many people in many different levels. Interviewed and hired hundreds of executives. And part of that process was something I really enjoyed, which was working collaboratively with HR, working collaboratively with the hiring manager, defining the roles and responsibilities of the job, interviewing those folks, and bringing those folks on board. So when I heard about this opportunity and the fact that the town was going to hire a new town administrator, I thought I'd be a good candidate to help on this team because I have a unique set of experiences in hiring people and bringing people on board. That's why I applied. I love living in this town. I think it's a great place to be, and I want to give back. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Board members, Mr. Tannenbaum, any questions?
Mr. Barry, thanks for replying.
You're welcome.
What are you looking for in the leadership skills from the person you're going to be interviewing?
I think someone that is focused and disciplined and that understands the needs of the town, that listens to the select board, understands the goals and objectives of the select board, and has the ability to structure their organization in a way to attain those goals. So somebody that's focused, that is a good communicator and has a record of being able to do this job. It seems like a very big job.
Thank you.
Stanley?
That it is a huge job.
So it seems that, yes.
Yeah, and we need to be very careful who we hire.
Right.
Very, very careful. But I've asked everyone before you that the question is, why Dartmouth? I know you mentioned a few things in your introduction, but why Dartmouth?
It's a great place. It's a thriving place, a city, a town. Just love it here. I think it's a hidden gem, and somebody that would be lucky to be appointed to that position, I think.
And that's why I want you to ask, why Dartmouth?
Right, and I will.
Yep.
Why Dartmouth?
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything? Mr. O'Neill?
No questions, just as the other candidates. I think the resumes, the description speaks for itself. Thanks.
Mrs. Brooks?
So I have asked the other candidates the same question, so I feel I need to ask you the same. Mr. Tannenbaum asked the first one, however, of the quality. So I'm going to ask you the quality that in the interview you will try to garner that will be a chink in that armor. What is a quality of a leader that we don't want, we want to avoid?
Someone that's quick to make judgments, someone that doesn't think things through. I think you can discern that through questioning a candidate pretty easily. But you're really looking for somebody that understands the multifaceted job of working with the select board, working with the town residents, and working with their own team, because they're going to have a team of people that they're working for them. So I think somebody that is level and level-headed.
Thank you.
That's it? That's it. Okay. Basically, I can tell you, I'm looking for somebody who, not warm and fuzzy, technical in the way government runs, but somebody that also has the ability to listen to others and to look for and seek out if people in other offices need assistance.
Sure.
Basically, not to sit up in the office like it's Sermon on the Mount, to actually come out of the office, see the landscape, and talk to everybody to see what needs to be done.
Sure.
I know that sometimes it's difficult for a person to do, especially in a technical field, such as running a government, but I think that's important. The ability to listen, the ability to be compassionate, to have compassion, but also the ability to hike up the pants and get the work done.
Sure.
So that's basically what I'm looking for.
I agree with you. And that's a unique set of skills that you need. You need to be able to communicate with the people that work for you, as well as motivate them and know when to pull back. So I agree with you.
Because it is a job that you can't please everybody.
Right.
There's just no way it's going to happen. So that's what I'm looking for. The five of us are tasked with forming this committee. We've been asked to keep the committee small so that it is workable, concise, and get the work done. We have 8 very uniquely qualified candidates for 5 slots. So, but we appreciate, and I appreciate your time and effort in trying to get on board.
Sure.
So we will have a decision tonight on the makeup of this committee.
Okay.
Because we will also have the profile ready to be published so that we can get advertised and get this committee going and get this people going tonight. So
Fantastic.
I appreciate you coming.
Well, you have my resume and
Yep.
my experience, so
Great.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, next, John Quinn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Quinn. I'm a lifelong resident of Dartmouth. I've served in various capacities in the town, in particular as the state representative for nearly 20 years, and I've done a whole bunch of things on behalf of the town. I've also served on the police station siting committee several years ago when we did that, and I serve in many community nonprofits and boards. My current position is the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Government Relations at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. In that capacity, I interface with the town on a regular basis. I've had quarterly meetings for the last 4 or 5 years with the current town manager, and I think it's a critical position. The town's at a crossroads. We've got some challenges, and I think it's important that we get the right person in this position. And I'm happy to participate in the selection process if so selected. Thank you.
All right, we're going to reverse. So, Mr. O'Neill, you have any questions?
Again, no questions for John either. Great resume, sets up properly for it.
Mrs. Brooks?
All right, so I'll ask, top 3 leadership qualifications you're looking for.
I think number one, particularly with our town form of government, is diplomacy. I think number 2 is work ethic. I think it's critically important. The person is, it's a very difficult job. And I think somebody that's got vision. I think we've got, sometimes we manage week to week or month to month or year for year. I think you got to have both the short-term vision but also the long-term vision for a town like this.
Thank you. And then my final question is, what do you feel as the number 1 flaw in a candidate?
someone that thinks they have all the answers. And again, particularly in our town of government with the town meeting and that, I think it's important that you're able to take advice and information from different people and make a decision, but nobody's got all the answers from the outset.
Thank you.
Mr. Mickelson?
So I'm going to ask the same thing. I want you to ask the perspective of the group, whoever they may be, every one of them, why Dartmouth?
I will ask that. I was very fortunate.
Be curious how much time they spent in
Yeah, I was fortunate in the 1950s. My grandfather moved to Dartmouth. I'm a lifelong resident. I appreciate the unique aspects of the town, and right, we need the right person that
special place.
Special place.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Tattlebaum?
John, thanks again for applying. Communicating to staff, residents, it's hard, and it's very diverse, and I think it's important that we, the person we choose has the ability to lead staff, to communicate well. Any suggestions to how you might want to approach the interview and ask the kind of questions?
Yeah, I think in particular, looking back on track record, we're not going to have somebody right out of school applying for this job. I think it's important to see how they've performed in the past in managing people. I think that's the past is a pretty good predictor of the future. And I think, to some degree, personality, somebody that's a people person, this is an important job. I think you have to be able to give and take and communicate. I know in the various jobs I've had, you can do the most wonderful thing in the world, but unless other people know what you're doing, it's not as effective and not as impactful if you're not able to communicate both to the people that work for you and to the community at large.
Thank you. Well said.
Yeah, because communication is absolutely a key. Most of us up here generally get phone calls or emails or get stopped when we're shopping, to ask the questions. And sometimes, we don't have that answer and we have to find it. And, if we can, I'm not saying we need to know everything going on at all the time, because that's just virtually impossible. But at least, a good basis on what's happening. What's going to happen is once we set up this committee and once we approve the profile to be sent out for advertisements, it'll be an advertising. Hopefully, we get a lot, and we get quality. And then the screening committee's job will be basically to go through each application, rate them, and send us the top 3. If there's a top 4, that's even better. If it's a top 5, that'd be fantastic. I love to kvetch over 5 quality individuals than just going with 3. So, so that'll basically, it'll be probably, Melanie, about a 6 to 8 week process, roughly. Yeah. So, and hopefully we'll have we'll pick out the 5 best and 5 good candidates for this committee, and you guys get together and go over everything, mull it out. So we appreciate both of you coming in tonight. So hopefully we'll be meeting with the Collins Center shortly. So then we'll be picking the committee shortly thereafter. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you. Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Next, is she ready? See if you get from Mike.
A question in the meantime?
Sure.
I know that we were advised by the Collins Center that a select board member, and I don't want, it's not soliciting personally, I'm not interested in participating, but advised not to have a select board member on the committee.
Correct.
And I thought that was pretty unique.
Well, eventually, it's the 5 select board that are going to be choosing the final guy anyway.
That's not the question.
Well, but I don't know if maybe we don't have a member on, but I think that it seems like to go from from no candidates to just dump 5 candidates on the select board without some kind of consultation with the select board seems to be dangerous, because it just doesn't make sense to me. I've never been on a search committee or heard of one where a member of some board or some group is not also participating. And I realize we voted on it, and I'm not saying we turned back on it, but I'm a little bit concerned that this is pretty different.
I'm not concerned at all. I think of the 8 individuals here, we can come up with a good 5-member committee that'll give us the best candidates for what we need to do when it comes time for us to make the interviews. And I think I would prefer getting a candidate from this committee, instead of being involved in the selection. I'd rather make my selection out of what is presented, because we know there are going to be some candidates and some people who apply for the job who basically are not uniquely qualified for it. And I don't have a problem. I know this has been done in other communities. I'm not sure how I don't believe Mr. McGinnis there was a committee member on that one, for that one?
Yes, it
If
was.
I'm not mistaken?
It was.
It was?
Yep.
Well, then that tells me a lot. But I don't believe there was one for Mr. Cressman, and we're going back 30 years on the other one, so I have no idea.
Mr. McDonald, I just want to say that I do agree with you, because I feel like I had input when the Collins Center did the one-on-one interview with me, and got to say what my concerns were, or what I was looking for. And I do think that that's captured in the profile that they created, like what they're looking for in an ideal candidate. So I almost feel like we have had some input, and now this committee is really just a screening committee. They're going to be looking at the applications, and doing that first round, but the decision will end up being ours. And I think by us not being a part of that, it's not tainted or skewed that the select person on that committee kind of got 2 votes for the person. Voted to send it ahead and then voted to.
Right.
I think it's kind of like we're all on an even footing then. We'll all vote for that person. And one of the concerns that Mr. Tattlebaum has had is if we don't get a good group of people in that round, this group is going to be able to kick it back and get us more out, send it back to the Collins Center. We need a better pool, or deeper pool.
That's the most important
Yeah.
of any of the decisions.
John?
Yes.
And David, I thought of that. I had, my initial thought was, it all depends on the screening members, right? When I looked at those resumes, that concern that I had about getting at least one member on the screening committee vanished.
Yep.
Because I think with the pool of candidates that we have, the talent, that mix of private and public, it really encapsulated everything that I wanted to see in the search committee. And I think, being on different boards, I've seen when certain people are in the room, it can have a change in the dynamic.
Yep.
So I'd like to have them free to discuss, free at will to really go through the candidates using their guided criteria, and come back to us with the best candidates
Very good.
they can find. So I'm more comfortable, Dave, but I thought of that originally also.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, we now have the Collins Center online with us.
No sound.
Good evening.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Just introduce yourself and
And your mic on.
turn your microphone on, I believe. I think I see a red dot on the side there.
All right, great. Hello, good evening. Nice to see you all. My name, if you haven't met me, is Mary Icardi, and I lead the HR practice for the Collins Center. I've been with the center almost 15 years, and we've done many recruitments, but we've not done one for you. So we're excited to be working with you, and we can go through whatever is your pleasure We can go through any edits you want. I appreciate everybody's edits and comments. And I appreciate Melanie's effort and getting the comments into the document for you for review. So we can do that, but I'm also happy to discuss anything you want in terms of screening committee process, dates, that sort of thing. So really the ball is in your court. What should we start with?
Okay, well, two of the major concerns is, was under the section of the salary and the benefits, we've eliminated the cell phone component that you had posted, because that's part of our MO anyway. So, and
Correct.
I
So,
can't remember, what was
correct.
the other one? Oh,
yeah,
yes,
The other one
yeah,
was
and-
cause. So
4 days
my
a week.
apologies, as I said in an email, I forget to whom, is that we should have highlighted that whole paragraph, that was a sample from another town, and what we wanted is what you wanted it to say. So we did correct that. So it
And we
it
also
now-
did remove the 4-day work week, because
Absolutely,
this
that was all
is-
part of the same thing.
this town is
Absolutely.
too large for a 4-day week, that's for
Correct.
sure. So
Correct.
we need somebody
Correct.
here. We want somebody in-house, in our office, here, 5 days a week. Whenever a work day, we want that person here, so that
I
they're
think you
accessible
want 6
to everybody.
days a week.
So the only other thing we have is the salary basis. So we're not, I had sent to my committee, the,
Area.
yep, we had sent them, I had canvassed this entire area from Wareham to Somerset. And I included also, just as an FYI, the 2 major cities in our area, Fall River and New Bedford, to
Yep.
show basically what we're looking for, what is being currently paid to current town managers / town administrators. But I also included Barnstable, Plymouth, and Falmouth. For some reason, the town of Dartmouth is always, in the past, has always been linked to Falmouth for whatever reason. Maybe it's because the last 5 letters of the is the same. But I'm known for a fact that that's basically what it is. And Barnstable, I think it in itself is kind of unique because of the numerous commercial spaces that they have, and also
The spike in the
unique,
summertime population.
yeah, and the spike in the population. They're a little bit much. And Plymouth, is another larger community, and I really wanted to get the areas in larger towns from our Commonwealth, and the only one I didn't include was Framingham. So the question is how are we going to proceed on what we want for a starting salary? Do we want a specific number, or because everything, no matter whatever we put, everything is the word negotiable has to be included, because that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it should be. So the question is, do we want a range? Do we want a specific number? Do we want to add a plus or minus after that number? Do we want to address it? Do we want to keep what the previous town administrator was supposed to be making this year? Or do we want to decrease it? Or do we want to increase it?
I would suggest, let me ask you this question. I think I know the answer. What was the most recent salary of your town administrator?
That was around 204
Okay.
and change. I wouldn't just want to add, let's just
Yeah,
go with a
no,
straight number.
that sounds good. And so what I would suggest is, I think you want to say plus or minus, depending on qualifications. Only because in this tough market, you might hire somebody who's on their way up but not there yet, or you might hire somebody who's well established. So you want to give yourself that flexibility,
Right.
but you also don't want to promise the bottom or the top, so I mean, if you were paying 204 and you look at you know Fairhaven is 204, Barnstable is much more, Plymouth is much more, and you have to realize, I certainly know for a fact Barnstable and Plymouth have lucrative other benefits. So I think
Right.
that's where it's the depending qualifications. So would you want to say 200 plus or minus, or 200, something like that? And if you say, depending on qualifications and experience, as it is restated in there now, in this draft that Melanie graciously sent, the starting salary, depending on qualifications and experience, is anticipated to be. So by using those words, anticipated to be, depending on qualifications and experience, you give yourself the leverage to go one way or another. And I think it gives a ballpark. The question is, are you willing to pay 250? Because if you are, then I would say move the number from 200. Are you wanting somebody, when you look at what we've got in there for the qualifications, we're saying a bachelor's degree, master's preferred, and 5 years of municipal leadership, which doesn't mean they have to have been a town administrator. They could be an assistant, they could be a department head, but you also have to take into consideration your ability to pay and your region. You're unique in that you're larger than a lot of your abutting places. You're more sophisticated. So, I could see some places, some municipalities want to say the anticipated starting pay is 190 to 210, depending on qualifications. It really is the will of the board. How do you want to articulate it? The wording that's in there now in the draft that I believe you have in your packets, it's very flexible. The starting salary, depending on qualifications and experience, is anticipated to be. That means maybe you have something that you did not anticipate. It gives you that flexibility. So it's a matter of what number do you really want to throw out there. I would be surprised if you got somebody with the 5+ years of municipal leadership that would take less than that starting pay.
Right.
Just because the market is so tough right now.
Okay. All right, I'm going to open up to the board. Mr. O'Neill, you have any?
My first impression on that issue, Mr. Chairman, is the plus or minus 200. I think it's simple. We're gonna negotiate anyway. It gives them it kind of gives them a pretty close bottom to what we're looking to pay. And I think when you look at the other towns in the area, it would give us an advantage on quite a few of them. There are a couple of others. I mean, Plymouth is pretty stiff, but Plymouth's a different case, and Fairhaven's pretty close to that. So I think we'd be well off at 200 plus or minus, definitely.
All right, Mr. Tattelbaum?
The only, it sounds like a reasonable number, but the only reason why you'd want to hint that you pay more, because you're looking for someone who's overqualified, in the sense that they have done a town that's of substantial size like ours, and we'd be willing to pay more because they'd be worth it. And maybe some additional language could be included. I don't want to scare away someone who's got this job similarly in a town that's maybe similar in size, and he really wants to move up, and he likes to come here, he or she, excuse me, and we're willing to pay that person because they have the qualifications. I don't want to scare that candidate away. Now, are we going to do that by saying 200 plus or minus? Maybe. In this marketplace, I think we're dreaming that we're going to find someone for that price anyway, but that's to be seen.
I think you bring up an excellent point. I think that as I look at the list, that was, distributed, you're not going to recruit somebody away from Plymouth or away from Falmouth, who's the top person. But looking at those numbers, their second in commands may be interested at the 200 plus or minus. You see some of these other ones really around one. I apologize, around 145, 165, 153. Any of those, $40,000 increase over their current pay is a reason to move. I also think that part of our job, when we get some people who will call and say, well, man, I'm already making 210, is there flexibility? What I'm hearing is, yes, if you're the right person with the experience we're looking for. I don't know that you need to add a word for the right person will go higher, because that almost cuts out the people that might come in who will take it at what you're advertising. So this is the conundrum that most people deal with. I'm looking at, and certainly you may get some mayors because they make way less than town administrators, but that's because they don't necessarily need the professional qualifications to be, an administrator. But looking at this pool, there's many of them that are in the mid 100s, 143 to 160. You can attract somebody away from that for a $40,000 difference.
Ms. Connie, can I ask another question on that line? I'm just curious, out of the, that 140 to 150, 160 range, how many of those, or can we find out, have full-time assistant administrators? Any idea?
We could find that out. I think that looking at them, my understanding is the few that I know have executive assistants or assistant two. It depends on how they utilize the person. Sometimes assistant to the town administrators are otherwise known as assistant town administrators. Carver, for example, they have sophisticated department heads. So it's kind of, I think you'll be okay. I think that you could say, if you were anxious about it, it's tricky to advertise more than what you were paying the person who just left, who had, the years of experience. But you can do it because that's the market. You could say, if you wanted to have it not be under 200, you could say 200 plus, depending on qualifications and experience. It's really a matter of, and how do we market it? People will call me. This is what happens. They will say, okay, are they willing to move? And we just had an experience on, with a town, a little more north up Route 3 from you, in that the town re-advertised and raised the money to like 180, and we had the conversations that they were flexible, but the person really wanted it to be over 200, so declined. But we had gotten the town to move on it, so that wasn't gonna work. So you have to be true to what you're willing to pay. And the good thing is, there's nothing in this language that says you fall in love with somebody and you've got to pay $225. There's nothing here saying you couldn't do that. But if you're willing to pay $250, some people screen themselves out by saying, oh, the job is really only, if it says 200, that means, 180 to 220 to start. And often our job is to say, yeah, that may be in year one, but negotiate the other years. So it really is up to you all.
Stanley?
Yes, this is a conundrum, there's no question about it. We want to attract somebody that actively is doing a good job in I don't care, whatever town they're going to come from. They're not going to come to Dartmouth, size of this town, and $100 million budget, and work for less than $200,000 or even $200,000. That number is not enough at all, because we're going to end up paying more than that, unless we attract assistant town administrators from various local areas, but they're number 2 or maybe number 3. I don't want to hire a number 2 or a number 3. I want a number 1. Now, we did hire a number 2 and we lucked out. Mr. McGinnis did a wonderful job as far as I'm concerned. And he brought us a good work ethic. And he started, because he was not number 1, he took less money that first contract. But we lucked out. He stayed a while. I don't want to deal with people that are looking for a stepping stone. They're going to come here for 2 years and get them whatever money it is and make a name for themselves and move on. I don't want that. So I'm not looking for assistant town administrators, because that's what they're going to do to us. They're going to come here, we're going to give them a little less money, and in 2 years, if they do a good job, they're gone. I don't want to be in that position again, looking for another town administrator. We have to, literally, I think, we have to face up that we're going to have to pay some serious money to get someone to leave, most likely to leave the job they're working in now, period. That's my feelings.
I'm looking at that, and when you said we may have, are we willing to go up as high as 250? I blanched at that, because personally, no. I don't think our town has the appetite to pay someone out of the gate in that range. We're getting a lot of kickback on what we're currently paying some other positions over to in our community. So I do think that having a 200 plus or minus gives us some leeway. And if we attract a number 2 person and they can, they come in and do a great job, we can certainly look at subsequent years. But we're heading into a tight financial time for our entire town, with some big ticket capital projects coming quickly. And what we need is someone that's going to be able to lead us into that. And I can't vote to go in that higher range. I like the plus or minus, and we will see when we start looking at the real candidates before us.
That's key. So the question that we have is, what number do we really want to go with? I mean, the suggestion is right now 200 plus or minus, but I mean, we were paying, the current town administrator roughly, let's just say 205,000. That should be the number. Myself, I think that should be the starting number, but it should be 205,000 plus.
Plus or minus.
Plus or minus.
Yeah.
Or we can go plus or minus. Necessarily, I mean, the negotiation point, we don't have to go minus. It depends upon what kind of candidate has been chosen and what the experience is. I mean, if we got somebody who has, 6 years of experience, or somebody who has, 15 years of experience, and depends upon where that experience is. I mean, if it's a community of, 4,000, 4,000 residents or versus, 25,000 residents, that type of thing. I think that's.
Was the current 4 plus 1 virtual, or was it 5? 5 days, I mean.
The current contract
No,
was 5
5
in-person days.
It wasn't 4 and 1 day virtual.
Oh, no.
Nobody ever
was
worked
4.
4 days.
Yeah, nobody was 4. David?
I think that The last thing I would like to see in a perfect world is to see anything but a person who's in charge in a town, very successful, maybe a bit smaller than Dartmouth, and this person wants to move here because it will be a bigger job, a bigger challenge, making more money, and would maybe even want to move to the town. That would be my ideal candidate. I don't really want to experiment with a number 2 person who might work out. This is too big a job. We need too much too fast. And we need qualifications of finances, of communication. These long-term projects are going to require some real long-term planning. It's going to require all kinds of talent in that area. So if the language plus or minus 205 will get us that person who has that kind of talent, then I would leave it up to the expert to tell us that. We can then, if that's the case, and we decide if this person is that good, then we can talk about more money, but it would be only because we're convinced that we're like super impressed and we need to talk to this person.
Right, and I think part of the thing is right now is that we don't know who out there is going to apply. So we don't know if it's going to be somebody who is a town administrator, who is a town manager, or who is an assistant. We don't know that. So to start thinking about whether or not we're going to get, applicants, in the, looking to move up, it's kind of, I'm not sure what we're going to get. Hopefully we throw the net out there and we get some good catches for it to look at. That's the best anybody can ask for, is to see what is out there and see who's, see who wants to come here, because basically that's what it comes down to. Who wants to come here, And I know there's a tall order for whoever's going to be sitting in this chair. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a tall order quickly, and the 5 of us are going to have a yeoman's work in helping that person shepherd his way through. So the question is...
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I have a recommendation. I think that bringing up the whole 205 is a good idea, only because if you say 200, I can't tell you how many boards I have dealt with who have said that means it could be 180, and that's kind of really, stretching it a little bit. If you said 205 and we could put in the most recent was with however many years in the job was making 205, we'll do plus or minus depending on experience. I think that shows good faith that you're not afraid of paying 200, but that doesn't mean you're paying 250. Because if you say plus or minus 205, I think most people will read that. Usually it's a $10,000 or $15,000 swing. So if you say 205, that means 190 to 120, depending.
Do we need to vote on that?
190 to 220.
I'd make a motion.
And I think that's what I'm hearing you say. And I don't mean 220 in year one, necessarily, So what about we say the 205 plus or minus, and I'll add a line that said the most recent who had this many years of experience, but we're also recognizing the market as well.
All right, so Mr. Tattelbaum wants to make a motion.
That's my motion right there, plus or minus 205 with that extra language.
Okay.
All right, motion made by Mr. Tattelbaum, seconded by Mr. Mickelson. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None unanimous. So there's that point. And then the other last point of this is the deadline. So we need to extend the deadline, I believe, to end of the month, October 31st. How does that sound for everybody?
Not later than that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would almost say,
We can't do it quicker than that?
looking at a calendar,
She got to do
It's got to get advertised too, Stanley. That's the whole thing. It's got to be out there.
Well, the quicker we
Yeah.
get all this done, the
I
quicker it
understand
gets
that, but
advertised.
you still did, this is, right now,
What is the soonest
this is
date?
4 weeks.
What's the soonest date we can do that allows you to do the process properly?
people apply on the first day and last day. If you give them 5 weeks, they're going to take 5 weeks. If you give them 4 weeks, they're going to take 4 weeks. So let me look at my calendar and suggest a date. October, we had said the 15th was a Tuesday. I would say Friday, the 25th.
Good.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Only because if I'm working with a screening committee, we can meet that next week. If we make it like the 28th, we've kind of lost that week for meeting, because we've got to gather the information. So I would say just add 10 days because this can be posted on MMA, as soon as they post it tomorrow or the next day. That's giving people, 1 to almost 4 weeks. That's all. We do a lot of direct recruiting. We just sent out our newsletter to 2,500 municipal officials that had this job saying, look to our website for the posting. So I think if we do the 25th, we'll save that week in order to look at the resumes and get the screening committee together.
Okay, so everybody's agreed upon that date?
Yes.
Okay, so
the
that's the date. All right.
Great.
Are those going to be Zoom meetings, pretty much the screening? Zoom on screen? Will
I
they-
think that's to be determined.
Oh, okay.
It's the will of the committee. I think we can do a few meetings via Zoom, but the meetings to review resumes, that really should be in person.
Okay.
Because we want to really have good dialogue, sometimes on a screening committee, on a screen for the screening committee. I think we can, whenever we get, I thought I joined the meeting. Have you got your screening committee set? Or is
That's our
that
next item on the agenda.
Okay, so once you get, let me tell you what's gonna happen. Once you get your screening committee set, I'm gonna get their names, phone numbers, and emails, and I will handle
Morning, right?
regrouping with them.
Yep.
And
Melanie will get
I'll
you the
work
names of
with
the committee
Melanie.
members.
Okay,
Yep.
because what we like to do is have a meeting with them while the job is being posted, so we don't lose time afterwards. I wanna get the questions set, I wanna get our process set.
Okay with that, Mel?
Okay, and then once you get the committee numbers, the committee's names and whatnot, if you could just send Melanie a time frame of your meetings, and when the turnaround time after the applications are received as to when, kind of give us an idea as to when we need to set up our final interviews.
Right, so looking at the calendar, if the key is the availability of the screening committee members. So I would anticipate meeting with them the week of the 28th to review resumes, and then interviews with the screening committee would be in early November.
Okay.
So
So when we send out a letter
email.
to the members who we choose on this committee, we will make it known to them that they need to be available for these meetings, because
Correct.
it's important.
Why can't you schedule them right as soon as they meet?
So Mary, do you anticipate meeting with them in advance of reviewing the resumes so that you can set parameters with the committee? Like
Yes,
a
my
training
first
of this
meeting,
committee in advance?
Right. Once I get their names and emails, so today is, October 1st, I want to meet with them the week of October 14th, just so we
Okay,
can have a
thank you.
formation meeting. Then we'll do questions in another meeting, which could be via Zoom. Then we will meet definitely in person to review resumes, and I'll map out a process, and I'll give you that time frame so you are aware if people are asking you what the process is.
All right, good. All right, so the last thing, does anybody have anything else to go on the profile that we need to take a look at?
No, but I just want to mention one thing. I know there was maybe a miscommunication on your part, Mary, that Melanie's emails were not being answered in a reasonable time. It is important that we get emails on a timely basis.
Absolutely.
Thank
You're
you.
absolutely right.
Thank you.
So the profile is set, everybody?
It's very good.
Agree with it?
Agree.
Okay, all right, so what I would need is a motion.
One question, Ms. Connie, one question on the number of screening committee members, right? In your experience, we've been fortunate enough to put together 8 qualified candidates. A couple of them stand out, but in your experience, would 5 be best? 5 with 2 alternates, 7? in order to take advantage of the public and private experience that they all have. I'm also thinking about travel. We've had some issues with travel. In 6 to 8 weeks, things happen. I'm just wondering if we should use an alternate system just in case we get an issue with someone that needs to head out for a bit.
It's totally up to you. I mean, the ideal number is 5. It's 5 people's schedules we're dealing with. However, 7 is a common number. The thought of keeping one person out of 8 out hurts my feelings. I don't know quite how you do that. The problem, yes, you can have alternates. The way that we would do that is the people you can use alternates up until the time of the interviews, but it should be the same people interviewing all those preliminary candidates. So if you have a fear that, and Lord knows, you don't know somebody's not going to get sick, they have a family crisis, and you could put one of your alternates in. So you may want to do, and I don't want to waste any of the alternates' time though, so maybe you do 7 with 1 alternate, 5 with 3 alternates. It really is up to you. We could make 8 work, but the tricky part is on all the other meetings, like doing the questions, we can do that via email directly with me. We don't debate via email. We never violate open meeting. But when push comes to shove to the actual interviews, it should be the same people interviewing all the candidates. So we don't mind if you have 8 and you call 3 of them alternate, but when it comes to the interview dates, it's got to be the same 5 or 7 people.
Right,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, and you strive to get those same 5 people.
Exactly.
And the reason that I'm bringing it up, there was I was watching a ZBA meeting last night, and there was participation from the 2 alternates that were on that meeting. They don't have the vote, but they have the input. And with the level of public and private experience that we have with these people, I'd hate to, lose one for the other, So I was thinking 5 and 2.
Hearing what you're saying, what I'm hearing is, why don't you appoint 5 and do 3 alternates to get everybody's thought process on it? They have to swear to their confidentiality and everything, like everybody would. And then you've got your 5 voting members, unless you have to replace somebody. Typically, any interviews are done within the same time frame, so we wouldn't, replace somebody unless it was for all of them, that kind of thing. But we can make that work if you'd like to do that. I think anybody who's interested should be recognized and appreciated for being interested on a board. I'm the extrovert. I love having people around, so whatever you decide is fine. Just to be clear that you've got your main members.
Okay, so we'll have to make that decision shortly. But one of the things I would like to do is to confirm and reaffirm the profile. So I'd like to have a motion to approve the profile as amended.
Moved.
All right, moved by Mrs. Brooks, seconded by Mr. Mickelson to approve the profile as amended. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Okay, so you're all set, and now it's
All
our
right,
turn
great.
to make up this committee.
All right, and I'll be in touch with Melanie tomorrow.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
All right, so, all right. What do you want to do on this committee?
Can we do the other business first?
Well, no, because our co-town administrators
Right.
Staying
are
outside until
staying
we finish
outside so that
this.
we can discuss this.
Okay.
We need them to be here for the other
Yep,
piece.
we need them here for the others.
For C, D, and all the rest.
Good point.
All right, so
So how do you want to handle this?
how do you want to handle this? 5, and then just let the other 3 know that they may be pushed into action if somebody can't handle it? Or is somebody
Well, not
decides to
that
buy out? or-
I certainly don't want it to feel like a secret ballot, but I do think if we write down our 5 names and we have, some that we all agree on and some that we don't, it may come out that we do have someone that is the number 6,
I mean,
another name, and then we can say that's the alternate.
I just
Only
think,
5
I think we
sheets.
should just have, just somebody come up with a committee. I mean, we can go down the names and say whether or not,
Do you don't want
go
to,
through, or,
do you want everybody to write down 5 names to start and get it going? And then guaranteed, there'll be the same, there'll be
be at
3 or
least
4
three or
names that'll
four,
be
and then-
be unanimous. I would imagine. Yes?
That's all.
you want to do that?
Yep.
All right. All right, we'll do that.
Do we have 5 papers?
Right?
Yep.
You want to just put it on one paper, and then we check off the box for each one? It's probably easier.
Yeah, if you want to, all right, so, all right.
Here, I'll write them.
What did Lyndon Johnson say? If I'm nominated, I will not accept the nomination.
So write your
Yeah,
your
it's just-
5 picks for now.
Oh, there you go, Mel.
Yeah, just write your 5
I've
picks.
got it right here. Oh.
No, here's your paper.
Government is riveting, huh?
I thought that's what I heard.
No, talk about filibusters.
Shall we pass them to you?
Yes, please.
All done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Secret ballot.
Thank you.
It's not so secret. Everybody knows everybody's handwriting.
Yeah, really, oh, I'll mix them up and have this one. All right, let me just,
Play some music.
Don't
Play the
look.
Jeopardy song or something.
My eyes are closed.
It's worse.
Oh, I'm sorry. See, my eyes are closed and it's on the ground.
It's gone.
all right.
Voting in propriety.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk among yourselves, go ahead.
Well, if we talk to ourselves, they'll all have us committed. Well, Mr. Markey, how's everything with you? Did you have a good dinner the other night? Sure I did.
All right. All right, with that.
Ladies and
We
gentlemen.
have some top
are-
candidates.
Actually, yes. The only one is the 5th place person.
Yep.
There's 3 votes for that.
Okay.
So, top vote getter, Jim Mathis. All right. With that, he's the only one with, everybody agrees on, so when we make, the motion, I think it would be appropriate to nominate him as the chairman
Yeah.
of the committee,
Yeah, he's-
okay?
Picked
Yeah,
them.
he's a good guy for it.
The next one is Ed Barry, John Quinn, and Nathan Silva. All have 4. After that, Al Olivera and Deidre Welch. So the question is which are the 2? I think, personally, I think it would be nice to have a little bit of a diversity on the committee. And I think, also looking at the resume of Ms. Welch, that her experience in previous searches would be important.
I agree.
Yeah, she stood out quite
Okay.
well, yeah.
All
I
right,
think
so
she-
the
it's a good name.
nomination would be to set up the screening committee by nominating Jim Mathis as chair, Ed Barry, John Quinn, Nathan Silva, and Deidre Farrell Welch as the screening committees.
Perfect.
Is that a motion?
Motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous.
Great.
And then we also send a letter to Mr. Olivera, Mr. Jones, and Ms. Estes, thanking them for participating, and hopefully they'll be able to participate in other committees in the future. All right. So that concludes that portion. Now we can get to the two items that are remaining, so if
So
you can
why don't we get the guys
zap them
back?
in.
But these are the three that are left. They could be called to.
Yeah, I'll tell Melanie that.
You didn't
yeah.
get any votes?
Yep.
Okay?
I'll tell them that, just in case somebody cannot do it.
205?
Just to make sure. Okay, thank you.
Don't take it.
Isn't that funny?
Hey, you need a raise.
Everybody knew.
You've got chief of staff.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is they talking to each other? Or?
It's, yeah, a million. However, still,
Job either.
I guess I won't be looking for him to pick up the tab.
So,
Well done, Mr. Chairman.
We'll
Thank you.
burn that. We'll burn those ballots.
You know what, and it's interesting, because when we got Sean McGinnis.
There he is.
here we,
All right, we're going to take this out of order because Mr. Mackey looks like he's ready to,
he's getting paid. He's
off over
he's
there.
good, he's
So-
happy.
It's hangry.
It's on the clock. Leave him
plus the
alone.
fact it's billable hours.
He's
so we wanna
happy.
get-
Yes,
Make it as
yes.
short as
Do you
possible.
want to go last?
All right, so we have a request from Stat Ambulance to use the Council on Aging facilities on a temporary basis while the work at Bridge Street, Fire District 1 Bridge Street Station is being worked on. Representative, Mr. Markey, Attorney Markey, your floor.
Attorney Chris Markey on behalf of Stat Dartmouth. First, I would suggest that you don't have to go through a search committee and do all that stuff. I'm more than willing to do it 4 days a week. And save you guys, I'll do it for $150.
Oh, nice bargain.
4 days is firm?
So, I'm here on behalf of Stat because they are in quite a predicament. As you know, District 1 Fire is rehabbing their Bridge Street facility. As a result of that, they were going to be removed from that facility during the rehab. It's also come to learn that because of the nature in which the funding occurred, Fire District 1, it will not be allowed to lease out any of the space as they have done over the last few years, or many years. As a result of that, they need to find a new location. They are under an agreement with a property owner on Dartmouth Street to be able to use a property there. There is going to be a hearing, I believe it's next Tuesday, with the zoning board in regard to that. In the meantime, last week, I believe the funding was allowed. There's an expectation it's almost immediate that they will start the rehab and they're going to be relocating somewhere. We have, for all the people who think the economy is doing poorly, we looked and scoured all of South Dartmouth within District 1 to find a garage that could handle it. There really isn't anything available. As a result, they've decided that they're going to try to purchase this property, but in the meantime, they need a location to run their facility. What it's going to require is a quarters for their staff, in which, because they're on 24/7, they need at least an area where they can sleep, have a bathroom, have a shower, that type of thing. And they need a place to store their ambulance. It's got to be within the district. So having all of that, those requirements, the one facility that came up with a large garage is the Council on Aging. In a very informal way, I've spoken with people from the Council on Aging, and there seems to be some appetite, or I should say there's no immediate no on that, that they were like, hey, this is going to be a real problem, this is a situation. The issue is obviously that the select board is the one in control of the facility, not the people from the Council on Aging. But I think, in all due respect, that if we don't listen to them, we're really ignoring our job. And and not paying attention to their needs and their wants. So what I would suggest to you, and what I'm here for, is at least to have the board provide authority to the finance director or whoever from the town who can begin at least having these conversations, having a meeting to talk about the possibility of doing this in order to make sure that District 1 has a facility, or District 1 ambulance has a facility available to them within the district. And that's all we're really looking for, is permission to be able to start that conversation.
So we'll have to rehab that building,
Rehab what building?
rehab the facility that, at the Dartmouth Council on the Aging.
No.
It's all there? All
Yeah.
the facilities there for bathrooms?
Garage is
and
there, there's the bullet house there, that's
Shower
potential.
area? No?
And we should be able to pull that off if we have to.
Mr. Chairman, the recommendation, I think, would be that both Chris and I work with the attorney and town council, along with the council on aging, to work out an agreement for this facility timeline, when they think that they'll be vacating that property, and logistically to make sure that the residents are served in that area, because the ambulance is being moved to a different location. So we also want to make sure that. But I think given the permission for both Chris and I to work out the logistics.
Okay, well, that also, I guess with your narrative, that puts in perspective why there's something on the ZBA calendar for 719 Dartmouth Street, so now it all fits, and it does make sense.
You should be
It
detective.
makes a whole lot of sense. So eventually, they're looking, if they get the ZBA approval, to do something over at 719 and have their
Correct.
location there. That's just down the street, so it's like halfway in between. It makes so much more sense. Yeah, I don't see why not, why this conversation can't happen. I mean, it should happen, but I think it will be worked out. And between Mr. Vitale and Mr. Carrero,
I would just say this, that I think the people who should be at least at the table is Tim from Emergency Management. I think they have some vehicles in their location,
Yeah, we can add
Council
them.
on Aging, so that everyone at least has an opportunity to be heard in regard to what we're trying to do and hopefully make it efficient as possible.
yeah, between Tim, Amy, our guys, and you and Anthony, I'm sure there's a reasonable solution that could be made. So what I would need is a motion to authorize, discussion to begin, to authorize Mr. Vitale and Mr. Carrero to begin discussions with STAT and Town Council and the Council on Aging and EMA.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mr. O'Neill. On the motion, any questions?
Just
All those in favor say aye.
a comment,
Sorry,
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Markey's done a lot of legwork on this so far. I've been through a lot of properties, a lot of options, and a lot of running around to try and figure out a spot that works for the town. So he should be commended for all the legwork that he's done on it.
Well, we all know Mr. Markey is a very hard worker, so that's for sure.
That's what happens when you've known the guy for 54 years.
On the motion, any further questions or concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. All right.
I have a
Very much,
Your
guys.
marching
Thank you.
orders.
question. I was at the District 1 meeting the other night when they added on the extra $2.5 million for the project. And a question came up from the crowd that, about the ambulance service. Will they be coming back? Where are they going? And there was like no answer. Is this definitive? I'm sure it is, that the ambulance cannot go back to District 1.
From my understanding, it's the position of the Prudential Board that they cannot do that. They cannot go back.
Cannot come.
Yeah.
Could I suggest that you get that in writing from the Prudential Committee?
Well, I believe that Ms. Mansfield might have that already, or Mr. Cabral
If
from
they do.
STAT have that already.
Be wise to get, if we,
But I'm pretty certain the way in which the nature of the funding came is because
I
of
understand.
that.
I'm not
Yeah.
doubting but I think something in writing that's definitive for you would be good.
great.
All set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Thank you very much.
All right. Next
Let's
item
go
on
on
the
in.
agenda, we have the CPC request for input on the FY26 needs assessment.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is the annual request from not only the board, but other committees, what they what projects that the board would see fit.
Okay. Do we have anything that we want to propose to them?
Not currently, and nothing, I mean,
And just to add to what Gary said, this request goes out on an annual basis. The goals are pulled straight out of our strategic planning documents. So year over year, the goals that they list, they stay pretty much the same. The wording may change a little bit, or they may add a goal if there's an issue that arises any given year. So, we can convey that to the board or back to the CBC if the board doesn't have any additional comments or suggested changes this year.
so the submission has to be in by November 5th, so
Right.
the board, I think, still has some time to
Okay.
look at that.
Well, if anything comes up, let's see what we can do. All right. Next item on the agenda is any update from the town administrator?
Nothing.
Okay. Old business, I'm assuming there's nothing?
No.
Nothing, okay. All right. Minutes, September 9th. Board's pleasure.
They look okay to me.
Do you have a motion to accept?
Accept the minutes for September 9th, 2024.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Okay, Select Board, have any updates? Mr. Tattlebaum?
I'd like to make a request for our board that you support a meeting that I would like to try to hold with the mayor of New Bedford, Mayor Mitchell, Rob Almy, and myself, simply to begin a dialogue centered around the water quality issues. Mr. O'Neill was kind enough to send us the Fairhaven approach, which certainly involves us in the CSO, but it goes further. This meeting is not about policy, about committing ourselves to anything. It's simply to sit down and say we'd like to begin the process of working as a team regionally to try to solve our water quality issues. I'd like to go there representing our board in that that's as far as it's going to go. This does not give. There's no intent here to do anything but to try to set a path.
So a fact-finding meeting
Well,
of some sort.
Beginning of a dialogue to do something, to get something taken care of down, that's necessary to be
It's
taken
not
care
just
of.
the CSO.
A long time coming.
But at some point in time, I would also like, the co-town administrators involved also, so.
No
keep them
question,
in
but
the-
I thought it'd be a good idea to make it less intimidating initially, but then they're off and running once he agrees to do it. Certainly, absolutely.
All right, well, we can put something together.
I'd like to contact him.
Okay.
I'd like the support of the.
So do we need a vote?
No, I think a consensus.
So David, call
Consensus is fine.
and
Yeah.
set it up.
Thank you.
But I do want the Select Board to revisit the Water Quality Committee that I proposed over a year ago.
Yep.
I'd like that to be on a
We will have
future
that.
agenda.
We'll put that on the next agenda.
Could we put it on the subsequent? I will not be here next week.
Okay, we'll put it on the agenda after next. Okay.
Thank you.
Next week, and assign all the duties that we give them all.
She won't be here, so, yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yes,
Can I just recognize Rick Trapillo from the Fairhaven, he's a designated Serpent from Fairhaven. He's on the planning board over there. Took this issue up as soon as he got in. He was working on it, I think, prior to getting into office. And he alerted me to the EPA grants that I had mentioned last week. I know that I've spoken to David and Heidi about this, the CSO issue. And the fact remains that there's no one city or town that's going to be able to handle this. It's going to have to be a regional effort. Fairhaven is looking to be part of that regional effort. I believe that Westport would dive into the chance, and maybe even the towns of Mattapoisett and Marion at some juncture. But
Agreed.
for the time being, just to lend that letter from David in his committee or the DPW to the mayor of New Bedford and let him know that we want to be a partner in this and try and help do whatever we can to try and solve an issue that we don't believe that the city of New Bedford should solve on its own. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I do have one thing. On November 1st, 2024, the Dartmouth Friends of the Elderly and Representative Chris Markey will be sponsoring the Veterans Day Luncheon at the Rachel's Lakesider, 950 State Road at 11:30. Any veteran is welcome. Please call 508-999-4717 for reservations. This year, they will be honoring Ed Pimentel, former member of the Park Board, former member of the EMA, former member of a whole lot of other things in this town. We will have a proclamation for that event later next month to sign.
We'll bring that to the
Yep.
Veterans Day.
We will bring it to the veterans for that day. I plan on being here for that, so, and I know Mr. Mickelson will be there also, and all the other 3 members are also invited to go. So with that, anything further?
I have a couple of things.
Go ahead.
So tonight's naloxone and drug safety training at the North Branch was canceled and will be rescheduled. The trainer came down ill, so she couldn't do it. But I did want to remind folks at home that on November 7th, which is next Monday night, Hidden in Plain Sight will be available.
Excuse me, you said November. Did you mean October?
Oh, I'm sorry. I
okay.
meant October
Excuse me,
7th,
yeah.
moving right along. October 7th, Hidden in Plain Sight will be showcased at the North Branch Library from 6 to 7 p.m. And this is for adults only, to see what a mock teenager's bedroom looks like and where you can find some hidden items. Also, I wanted to make the board aware that I attended the ribbon cutting on the new Lloyd Center Welcoming Center, and it was built, it took almost 9 years due to COVID and everything else, but it was built in conjunction with the students from New Bedford Regional Vocational Technical High School. They did all the building, plumbing, electricity, and it is the only 100% green building on the East Coast and follows every code. So it's really quite a nice building to see. And finally, last week I attended the WEMO Leadership Conference, which is the Women Elected Municipal Officials Conference, and I did meet with someone who will be of assistance in figuring out housing, to rehab municipal buildings for housing. And so she and I've sent her some information on the former police station, and I'm hoping to hear back from her.
Terrific.
And that's it.
All right. Anything else? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mickelson, seconded by Mrs. Brooks. On the motion, any questions? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none unanimous. Good night, everybody.